In this lecture, we are going to install MySQL. So first of all, what do we have to do? We have to navigate to mysql.com. First of all, let me tell you a few words about the documentation because MySQL has an extremely useful documentation. So if you click on documentation and you can check the reference manual here, and after that you can search for several topics and articles. As you can see, you can search for security, you can search for optimization, you can search for data types, SQL statements and so on. But of course the first step is to install MySQL. So there are several good articles present on mysql.com, and here you can find several useful articles on how to install MySQL on Microsoft Windows, how to install MySQL on macOS, how to install MySQL on Linux and so on. Of course, we are going to install MySQL on Microsoft Windows. So if you navigate to the middle section, then there is the MySQL installer method. Basically, you just have to download MySQL installer from this link. So we have the dev.mysql.com/download/installer. So this is what we are after. By the way, you can get to the same page several ways. So if you go back to mysql.com, then you can click on downloads. And of course, you just have to look for MySQL community downloads. So if you click on MySQL community downloads, then you can download several MySQL related plugins, such as MySQL for Visual Studio, MySQL installer for Windows. This is what we are after. But as you can see, you can download MySQL connector for Node.js, for Python, for C++, and so on. Okay, so if you click on MySQL installer for Windows, then we end up with the same page as we have discussed earlier. Okay, so we have two options. First of all, we have a MySQL installer web community and we have the MySQL installer community. If you have internet connection, then of course you can download MySQL installer web community. If you want to install MySQL offline, so without internet connection, then you have to download MySQL installer community. And by the way, despite the fact that it is a 32-bit version, you can check the information, and as you can see, MySQL installer is 32-bit, but will install both 32-bit and 64-bit binaries. Okay, so in my case, because I have internet connection, I am going to download the MySQL installer web community. So let's download, and here we have to click on no thanks, just start my download. So let's wait for it to be downloaded, and after that we just have to double click the MySQL installer. So first of all, we allow the operating system to install MySQL, and then we have the MySQL installer like this. You can select the setup type, the developer default will be just fine, so let's click on next. And here, these are the products that are ready to download. As you can see, we are going to install several products such as MySQL Server. Of course, this is the most crucial part of MySQL. We are going to install MySQL Workbench. I'm not sure whether you are familiar with MySQL Workbench, but it is basically an integrated development environment to be able to handle databases, database tables. It is extremely easy and convenient to run SQL commands. So basically, MySQL Workbench makes it quite convenient to deal with MySQL Server and the SQL programming language. We can download and install the connectors for C++, for Java, for Python and so on. Let's click on execute. And of course, these packages and products are going to be downloaded and installed accordingly. If there is a problem, you can click on try again, and MySQL will try to re-download these packages and products one by one. Okay, so after that, let's click on next. And let's click on execute because these products are ready to be installed. Okay, and of course let's wait for your operating system to finish with the installation process. Of course it is going to take some time, but anyways, let's wait for it to be finished. It may happen that some of the products are failed to be installed, but I am not going to bother with it because the most crucial parts have been installed, as you can see. So we have to click on next. And then as you can see, we have to configure MySQL server as well as MySQL router. So what do we have to do? Of course, we have to click on next. This is going to be just fine. Of course, we are using TCP IP. The port number is the standard MySQL port 3306. So the default values are going to be just fine. As far as the authentication method is concerned, let's use strong password encryption for authentication. So let's click on next. And here you have to define your password. It is going to be crucial, so make sure that you remember what you have defined here, because this is how we will access the MySQL database. So I define my password. It is a weak password, but anyways. And then you can add a given user. So let's add a user. The username is going to be my name in my case. Of course, feel free to use whatever username you would like to use. The host is going to be localhost. The role is the DB admin, which means database administrator. And of course, the password is going to be the same. Okay, so this is how we can specify a new user. So as you can see, after the operation, we have a new MySQL username. The host is localhost, and we have the user role as database administrator. So let's click on next. As far as Windows Service is concerned, the default settings are just fine, which means that Windows is going to start the MySQL server automatically. Okay, so let's click on next, and then let's click on execute for applying the configuration. MySQL is going to initialize the databases under the hood, and of course MySQL server will be started, as you can see. So let's click on finish. As you can see, the MySQL server related configuration is completed. So what do we have to do? We have to deal with MySQL router. So let's click on next. Because of course we are dealing with localhost, so we are not going to use any router. This is why we just have to click on finish. And after that, we have to click on next. And here we have to check whether the MySQL server is working fine or not. So we have the username root, it is fine. And you have to provide the password we have just created earlier. So if we click on check, then of course connection succeeded. So we have to click on next. Then we have to click on execute. Let's wait for MySQL to finish with the operations, and let's click on finish. So this is exactly what we are after. Let's click on next. Of course, we are not going to start MySQL Workbench, so this is why let's untick this checkbox. By the way, MySQL Workbench, as I said earlier, is an integrated development environment for MySQL and the SQL programming language. Okay, so let's click on finish. And of course, if you search for the services, then you can check that MySQL server is running. And as you can see, MySQL is running and it is automatic as far as the startup type is concerned. And of course, this is exactly what we are after. By the way, if you open a command prompt, then of course MySQL is still not recognized as an internal or external command, because of course we have to handle the path. So what do we have to do? First of all, we have to find where we have installed MySQL. So program files, MySQL, and we have the MySQL server, and we have the bin folder. This is what we have to copy. So let's look for the environmental variables, and as far as the path is concerned, let's edit and let's create a new as far as C program files MySQL server related bin folder is concerned. So if we click on OK, then let's see whether it is working fine or not. So let's open a command prompt again. So we have MySQL as far as the user and my name is concerned. So this is my username, and we notify MySQL that we would like to use our password. And if we use the password we have defined a few minutes earlier, then as you can see, it is working fine. And of course, we can use SQL as a programming language in order to communicate with the MySQL server. For example, we would like to see the databases, so show databases. If we use something like this, then MySQL is going to show the existing databases. And then of course we can use, for example, the system related database, and database has been changed, and so on. Okay, so that's all about